Hello and welcome to the Health Source podcast, your source for all things health, wellness, and lifestyle inspo. I'm your host, Beck Russell, health and life coach and the author of Life in the Soul Lane. Through conscious conversations, our aim is to inspire and empower you to live your most well, happy, and vibrant life. If you're ready to elevate your well-being, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Health Source podcast. It has been a little while since I have been here on the podcast with you, and so I thought it was time for me to jump on with a little bit of an update. So this is just going to be quite a short episode, I think. I'm just coming to you cacao in hand and unscripted, unedited, just with a little bit of an update about life things and podcast things. So we'll see where it takes us. So I launched this podcast, The Health Source, towards, the latter half of last year, and it's been incredible. I've been so fortunate to not only be sharing solo episodes with you, but also had some incredible guests so far, which I'm just so grateful for, and to be able to share their wisdom with all of you as well. And then about 2 months or so after the podcast launched, I went through some really big life changes that, to be honest, I was not anticipating, I wasn't expecting, I wasn't prepared for, and to be honest, didn't really want to occur. And so I've been really deep in sort of moving through all that has come along with that. And so there hasn't been much space for me to be able to keep the podcast up and running on a regular basis. So that is the reason why there have not been any new episodes in quite some time. But I'm really excited to share that the podcast will be back. It will be in a little bit more of a relaxed format, I suppose, moving forward. I've got some incredible guest interviews coming up, which I'm so grateful for. So you'll start to see those rolling out over the next couple of weeks as well. I've got some incredible authors sharing their books that are coming out in the world, and of course all of their wisdom that is included within these pages. So I'm really excited for that too. I'm always so open for you guys to let me know as well who you'd like to have on the show as a guest interview, or any topics that you'd like me to speak to as well. So feel free to connect with me over on Instagram. My handle is @BeckRussell_, and let me know as well. I thought it might be nice if I just kind of speak to a few things. I've just finished an interview with a beautiful friend and colleague, and we were just talking about life and some of the really big things that are going on or have been going on in our lives in the past little while. And we were kind of just saying that it's just life, like life can be filled with so much joy and happiness, and there can be periods in our life where things are going quote unquote really well, and maybe we're feeling really successful in our relationship or our business, or our family unit is really thriving and things feel really amazing. But then with the law of polarity, there's always two sides of the coin, right? There's two ways that the pendulum can swing. And so the nature or the law of polarity speaks to the fact that, of course, there's going to be the opposite of that in our life, and challenges are going to come up. Things are going to pop up that we weren't anticipating, and we just have to allow what is happening in our life to happen. We have to allow things to unfold in their own divine timing. We have to try and, as much as we can, to make peace with anything that's happening in our life, to be able to extract the lessons and the learnings from every situation that we move through. Because as dark and as hard and as challenging as some of these time periods can be in our life, there's always a silver lining. There's always gold to be extracted, to be excavated. It's in these times of great suffering that we can extract the nectar from life. Because if you think about it, if things were peachy and sweet all the time, then we would never know the opposite. If we weren't in the trenches of what can happen throughout a human life, then we would never know the extreme joys that are available to us. We would never know what happiness and peace and contentment and purpose and joy would feel like if we didn't ever speak to the opposite end of the spectrum. And these times in our life can be so, so, so hard when we're going through them. And it's not to take away from these times. It's really, really important, in fact, that we feel everything that needs to be felt during those times. It's important that we don't just try to soldier on and pretend like everything is okay when it's not. And it's not to say that we sit there and dwell in our own suffering, but it is important that we acknowledge what we're moving through, acknowledge any feelings that we are feeling, and process them, because if we don't, this is when we can suppress what we're feeling. Things get stuck in the emotional body, which then manifests as being stuck in the physical body, which then manifests as a physical ailment or an illness or something like that. When we're going through a challenging time as well, our nervous system can be really quite activated as well. And so it's important for us to tend to the nervous system as best that we can. And it's not that we want to stay in a Zen state all of the time. It's more about how can we cultivate a pliable nervous system so that when things are really great in our lives, that we can fully be in that and savor that moment. But also when life inevitably throws a challenge or a curveball our way, how can we be with that too? How can we adapt to our changing environment, our changing landscape? How can we find peace in the moments that don't feel very peaceful on the surface? How can we cultivate a greater sense of resilience and gratitude for where we are right now, knowing that where we are right now is always where we're supposed to be? How could it not be otherwise? What's unfolding in our lives would not be occurring. And it's hard to have that faith and that trust during those times of challenge. But this is where we call on the art of surrender. This is where we call on faith in the universe. And I always love that saying that when you leap, the net will appear. So it's like you need to take a big run up and just leap and know that the universe will be there to catch you. So I just want you to know that if you are traversing a challenging time right now, I just want you to know that I see you and I feel you, and I might not 100% understand, know what you're going through right now, but we all are moving through something, right? Not all the time, but someone is always moving through something at that particular time. And it's inevitable to have these ebbs and flows of life. And so how can you ride those waves with a little bit more ease and grace? How can you show yourself a little bit more compassion in those moments where perhaps maybe you're not feeling your most happy and shiny self, but knowing that it's still there inside of you? How can you allow yourself to feel what you're feeling, to process what you're feeling, and move it through the body however you can? How can you show yourself unconditional love even if you don't feel like that you receive that from others? It's always got to start from you first. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you're in a really beautiful season right now in your life, make sure that you are fully in that and giving thanks for that and enjoying that, because life is beautiful even amongst the pain, even in the imperfections, even in the challenges, even when you're in the trenches. So just something to consider. I'll leave it there because I feel like I could keep going on and on about this topic, but I just wanted to give you a quick little update on what the podcast is up to, what I've been up to, and just give you a little bit of light if you feel like you are in a little bit of a challenging place right now, because there's always someone there alongside you who is there to hold you and support you and to know how you're feeling to a degree. So, as I mentioned at the top of the podcast is making a comeback. Like I said, I want it to be a little bit more flexible and fluid in the way that it is run from here on forward. You are going to see some incredible guest interviews coming up over the coming weeks. So, I can't wait to share those with you as well. Like I said, if you want to connect with me and let me know of any topics you'd like to see covered or guests you'd like to have on the show, send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me on Instagram. My handle is @BeckRussell_. And I think that's everything for today. So as always, thank you so much for being here. Make sure you give love and tenderness and compassion to yourself today and to those around you. And until next episode, take really good care of yourself, and I'll chat to you again soon.